night forest, quiet cosmos, a gentle journey for rest. Let your shoulders soften, as if they are quietly remembering how to rest. Unclench your jaw, just a little, and let the tongue relax behind your teeth. If your eyes are open, you can allow them to blink slower. And if they want to close, you can let them close. Nothing needs to be solved tonight. Nothing needs to be carried so tightly. Somewhere beyond the walls of your day, there is a place that feels familiar in sunlight, trees, paths, leaves, and small stones. But when evening slides into night, that same place becomes something else. Not dangerous, not empty, just different. As if the world turns down the volume and the quiet becomes more detailed. Tonight, we're going to walk slowly, gently, into that softened world. A forest at night, a place that doesn't fall asleep so much as it changes its rhythm. The day shift steps back, and the night shift steps forward, without any announcement. If you've ever felt your mind get louder when everything else gets quiet, you're not alone. And if you've ever looked into darkness and wondered what's there, I promise we'll hold that question with warmth like a small lantern cupped in your hands. Before we drift deeper into tonight's gentle journey, remember to subscribe to Sleepy Insight channel. Here, you'll always find peaceful stories that soothe the heart and quiet the mind. Where are you listening from tonight? Leave a comment. Your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. And now, take one easy breath in. Not big, not forced, just enough to feel the chest rise and then fall. As you breathe out, imagine the day loosening its grip on you. Like a coat you can finally hang by the door. The first thing you notice, as the forest darkens, is that darkness isn't a blank sheet. It's a fabric. It has texture. It has layers. It has distance. A far line of trees becomes a soft silhouette, and closer leaves turn into gentle shapes, outlined by whatever light remains thin silver of moon, faint glow of stars, or a dim ribbon of twilight still resting on the horizon. Some nights, the edges of the forest seem to breathe. Fireflies gather where the air is warm and humid, and their lights do not blink like a single spark. They pulse here, then there, then together, like a slow, living constellation, scattered just above the grass. In a few special places on Earth, certain fireflies even synchronize, their glow rising and falling in shared timing, as if the trees themselves are blinking. It can feel like watching the forest inhale and exhale, a private rhythm, a lullaby made of light. If you're listening tonight from a busy city, you might be used to lights that feel fixed and indifferent, always on, always demanding. But firefly light is different. It drifts, it swells, it thins, it returns a few steps ahead, as if it's guiding you without insisting. And in that gentle guidance, you might begin to sense something soothing. The night is not empty. It is full of living decisions. As you move deeper, the path becomes quieter under your feet. Not silent, just softer. The sounds of the day fade, and the small sounds become clearer. A leaf shifting, a branch settling, a distant creak that somehow feels closer now that the air is cooler. At night, sound can travel in calm layers, gliding farther than it does under the bright turbulence of midday. It's one of the quiet wonders of evening. The world becomes a better messenger. Sometimes, even the trees seem to speak in subtle ways, not with words, with temperature. Wood stores warmth from the day and releases it slowly after sunset, like a patient exhale. If you've ever placed your hand on a tree trunk after dusk, You might have noticed it feels almost alive, warmth lingering beneath bark, as if the tree is keeping a memory of sunlight. In that warmth, tiny lives find steadier comfort, and the forest becomes, in its own way, a place of gentle shelter. Tonight's story will not rush. We will follow the night the way water follows a riverbed, naturally, without force. We'll move from light to scent, from scent to sound, from sound to the quiet work beneath the soil. And along the way, we'll find a soft discovery. The forest has a hidden network that connects neighbors, shares resources, and keeps the whole place resilient, like a community that helps each other in silence. But first, let's let the scene settle around you. Imagine a narrow trail, not wild and tangled, but familiar like a path in a park, or a woods you once visited on a calm evening. The ground is cushioned with leaf litter, a soft layer that holds moisture and quiets footsteps. Above you, branches weave into a canopy, leaving small windows where the sky shows through. In those windows, the stars don't look like decorations. They look like distant campfires, steady, patient, unimaginably far away. When was the last time you looked up at the night sky and felt at peace? You don't have to answer quickly. You can simply let the question rest beside you. Sometimes a question, held gently, is more calming than an answer chased too hard. A breeze slides through the understory, and with it comes scent. At night, the air often settles into smoother layers, and smell can travel in long, narrow corridors, like invisible hallways between trunks and ferns. A flowering plant might send a faint message downwind. A leaf that was nibbled earlier might release a quiet warning into the air. And somewhere, unseen, a small creature lifts its nose, not in fear, but in understanding. The forest communicates like this, constantly. And in the dark, those messages can carry farther. If you'd like, let your own breath join that night air, in and out, slowly, as though you're matching the pace of the trees. Now the trail bends, and you notice a different kind of light, low, greenish, steady, not bright like a lamp, more like a whisper of glow. A fallen log lies just off the path, softened by time, darkened by damp, and on its surface, small mushrooms shine with a gentle bioluminescence. It isn't magic, exactly though it feels like it. It's chemistry, working quietly inside living tissue. And the purpose is surprisingly practical. The glow can attract insects that help spread spores, carrying the next generation to another moist corner of the woods. What looks like simple beauty is also a strategy, a quiet advertisement in the dark. There's something comforting about that. In the middle of decay, there is a beacon. In the middle of shadow, there is a soft invitation. And if your mind has been heavy lately, you can borrow that image. Even what feels worn or tired can still hold a small light. The log, too, is not an ending. In a forest, a fallen tree changes roles. As fungi and microbes move in, the wood becomes a sponge, holding water for nearby seedlings. It becomes shelter. It becomes food. It becomes slowly soil. The forest does not waste its fallen giants. It converts them patiently into future strength. And beneath that log, beneath the leaf litter, beneath the roots you can't see, there is another world. A world of fine threads and quiet exchange. A world we'll approach gently, like we're walking toward the edge of a sleeping lake. As you continue, the fireflies thin, and the darkness deepens into a calmer shade. it no longer feels like a curtain. It feels like a room where someone has turned the lights low on purpose. A place made for resting. Somewhere above, a few clouds drift slowly, dimming and revealing starlight in unhurried cycles. And the forest responds the way it always does, without panic, without drama, with patient timing. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. Here, no one rests alone. Every story is a soft lantern in the dark. And now, as the path narrows, you begin to notice something strange in the most peaceful way. The ground beneath you is not just ground. It is a living marketplace, a place where roots and fungi trade in silence, where resources move like whispers, and where connection runs deeper than sight. In a moment, we'll step closer to that hidden network, so gentle, so steady, that some people call it the forest's wood wide web, not because it is loud or modern, but because it links lives that appear separate on the surface. For now, just take another easy breath. Feel your body supported. Feel the night holding you with quiet permission. And let's follow the faint glow ahead into the soft, unseen threads beneath the trees. The air grows a little cooler, and with that cooling, moisture begins to change its shape. You may not see it right away, but you can imagine it. Water vapor, something that was invisible a moment ago, condenses into tiny beads on leaves and needles. Dew forms quietly, one droplet at a time, until a blade of grass wears a necklace of faint, trembling pearls. Each droplet bends whatever light exists. Moonlight, starlight, the soft afterglow of the sky. And for a moment, the forest seems to carry 1,000 miniature mirrors, each one turning dim light into a gentle sparkle. Sometimes, the night goes even further. Mist rolls in fog that drifts between trunks like slow-moving breath. It isn't just decoration. In many places, fog is a kind of delivery service, turning air into water without a single raindrop falling. As fog brushes past leaves and moss, it leaves moisture behind, feeding the forest in a way so quiet you could miss it entirely. If you've ever watched mist thread through trees, you were watching the forest drink. If you notice your thoughts drifting toward errands, messages, tomorrow let them drift. You don't have to push them away. You can imagine them as small clouds passing across the moon. They move through, and the sky remains. You remain. Soon, the path widens, and the ground feels springy under the leaves. Roots braid close to the surface, and life below is quietly busy. Sugars, made in daylight, travel downward like gentle currency. Minerals and water rise in return, carried through soil by fungal threads. You don't need to memorize any of this. You don't need to hold on tight. Just let the idea touch you softly. The forest stays strong because it is connected. In the next part of our journey, we'll kneel beside the roots, only in our imagination, and follow the silent threads that carry support from one tree to another. A soft discovery, waiting patiently under the calm, watching sky. Like a warm promise the night keeps, the trail invites you to slow down even more. Not because anything is difficult, but because the night feels as if it has widened, giving you space to breathe inside it. In daylight, you might notice the obvious shapes first. Trunks, branches, patches of sun, the clear boundaries of things. At night, the forest teaches a different kind of seeing. Edges soften, distances melt, and what matters most is not what stands apart, but what quietly reaches towards something else. You stop near an old oak, or maybe a cedar, something sturdy, something patient. Its roots disappear into the dark ground, and yet you can sense their presence, the way you can sense a shoreline even when fog hides the water. The soil here is cool, slightly damp, layered with fallen leaves that have been turning into earth, one slow season at a time. If you like, imagine lowering yourself down as though you're kneeling beside a sleeping friend. Your hands do not need to touch anything. This is only a gentle picture in the mind. But the closer you come, the more you can feel that the ground is not inert. It is not just dirt. It is a living commons. Under the leaf litter, roots spread like quiet rivers, and alongside them, woven between grains of soil, are threads so fine they resemble pale silk, fungal threads. Mycelium, a delicate architecture that can stretch much farther than the surface suggests. Some people call it the wood wide web. It's a phrase that sounds modern, almost playful, but the truth beneath it is simple and kind. Trees and fungi often work together. The tree, in daylight, makes sugars from sun and air. The fungus, in the darkness of soil, gathers water and minerals from places roots alone might not reach. And between them, there is exchange. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady, mutual help. If your mind wants an image, picture a long table set under the ground. No rush, no noise, only quiet offerings sliding from one neighbor to another, the way warm bread is passed without a word. And if you've been feeling like you've had to do everything alone lately, let this be a small comfort. Even the strongest trees are supported by invisible partnerships. You rise again, and the night meets you with its soft weather. A breeze moves through the canopy, and a few leaves drift down, turning slowly as they fall. They land without a sound. Dew beads along fern fronds, each droplet catching a hint of moonlight, trembling but not falling. It's as if the forest is wearing jewelry made of water. Here and there, you notice leaves that have changed posture since sunset. Some plants fold inward at night, conserving moisture, easing the work of being alive. It's a small motion like hands coming together in prayer, not for show, but for peace. Even vegetation has its own way of closing the day. If you've been pushing yourself without pause, you can borrow that ritual. Let your inner leaves fold. Let the day's sharp angles soften. Let your attention come home to breath, warmth, quiet. You can imagine the network beneath you as a slow conversation, not spoken, but felt. A tree that has plenty of light can, in certain moments, share a little of its abundance. A tree under stress may send subtle chemical messages through roots and fungal partners, like a quiet request carried through the soil. It isn't sentimental, but it is relational life, responding to life. And the soil itself is a kind of library. It holds scents of old rain, crushed needles, distant blossoms. When you step, you release small aromas from the leaf litter, as if the ground is opening a page. The night air gathers those scents and moves them in narrow streams. One step smells like pine. Another step smells like damp stone. Another carries a faint sweetness you can't quite name, like a memory you almost remember. Smell can be a time machine. Maybe it brings you back to childhood porch lights and summer air, a parent calling your name, the hush that arrived after laughter. Or maybe it brings you to a calmer version of yourself, the one who existed before the world felt so loud. If a memory arrives, let it arrive. You don't have to chase it. You can simply let it sit beside you, like a familiar song playing from another room. Somewhere nearby, a small animal holds still, perhaps a rabbit perhaps a deer. You may not see it, but you can sense the calm way it uses stillness, not frozen in fear, simply conserving energy, letting the night pass through without struggle. Even its breathing seems small. A lesson in gentleness, a lesson in not spending more than you need. As the trail bends, you notice how your body responds to this place. Your shoulders drop without being asked. Your forehead smooths. Your hands loosen. The forest doesn't demand attention. It offers permission. And permission is one of the rarest comforts for a busy mind. If you're listening from a room, you can take this permission with you. The images are enough. The sounds are enough. Your breath is enough. You're allowed to be unfinished tonight. For a few steps, the path becomes slightly higher and drier. The air turns crisp, scented with resin. Then it dips again, and coolness returns, like a soft cloth laid on warm skin. Night eases the heat out of the day, and in that easing, something inside you can ease too. Above, the canopy shifts with slow agreement. Leaves sway. Branches creak once, then settle. Its movement so gentle, it feels like the forest is rocking itself to sleep, while also keeping watch, quietly, for whatever needs water, shade, or time. And all the while, beneath your feet, the network continues thread by thread, making the forest more than a place, making it a community. Now the sounds become clearer. A cricket begins its steady rhythm somewhere in the brush. Not urgent, just a simple pulse, repeating like a metronome. Farther away, an owl calls once, then rests. A creek continues its patient work over stones, smoothing edges, polishing time. Sound at night can feel like velvet. It doesn't strike you. It settles around you. If you notice your breathing matching those rhythms, let it in and out, softly, as if your lungs are listening. The forest, in its nighttime patience, organizes itself by senses. Light becomes smaller, more meaningful. Scent becomes a map. Sound becomes a lullaby. And touch becomes subtle. The cooler air on your cheeks, the damp softness underfoot, the faint brush of mist along your arms. The trail opens into a small clearing. Here, the sky appears like a dark lake overhead. The stars seem sharper, as if the world has stopped vibrating. A thin slice of the Milky Way might be visible, just a pale dusting, like flour scattered across velvet. If you've ever been startled by how many stars exist when city lights fade, you'll understand this feeling. The universe suddenly looks closer, not in distance, but in intimacy, as if it has been there all along, waiting for you to stop long enough to notice. When was the last time you let the sky be bigger than your to-do list? Again, you don't have to answer. Just let the question rest on your chest, like a warm hand. The trees are shaping the sky into small windows, like a quiet cathedral of leaves. Through those windows, light arrives from places older than any human story. And somewhere in the undergrowth, a small beetle moves with careful purpose. In some species, beetles can use the night sky as a guide, keeping a straight line by reading the pattern of stars. It's one of those facts that feels like poetry more than science. A tiny creature, close to the Earth, navigating by the galaxy. The universe touches the ground in gentle ways. It doesn't need to be grand. It only needs to be real. You walk again, and the trail dips toward a wetter part of the forest. Moss grows thick along stones and fallen branches, holding water like a sponge. The air cools, and the scent changes more mineral, more green, like rain remembered. Mist threads between trunks, slow as smoke, but clean and soft. It wraps the forest in privacy. If your thoughts have been looping, you can place them into the mist. Let the fog take them. Let it blur their sharp edges until they feel less important. There will be time tomorrow for clarity. Tonight is for comfort. A faint glow appears near the base of a tree. Not bright, just calm, like a nightlight meant for the woods. Bioluminescent fungi, or glowing wood, where fungi are doing their quiet chemistry. The light seems to say, without words, "You're safe. Keep going." And as you keep going, you begin to understand a deeper truth. The forest is not a collection of separate lives. It is a relationship. A tree does not stand alone. Its roots touch a network. Its leaves feed the whole. Its shade shelters seedlings. Its fallen branches become homes. Even its decay becomes nourishment. In that shared underground network, young seedlings can sometimes receive help, tiny deliveries of carbon from older trees that have more sun. Not charity with a speech, not rescue with an announcement, just quiet support moving through quiet channels. This is one of the gentlest truths of biology. Life cooperates more than we notice. Competition exists, yes, but so does partnership. And partnership often looks like stillness. If your mind has been insisting you must be strong all the time, consider the forest. Strength here is distributed. It is shared. It is passed along. No single tree has to hold the entire sky. If this story is reminding you of someone, a friend, a parent, a quiet mentor, you can let their memory sit beside you for a moment, not as ache, as warmth. And if tonight's story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself when you feel ready. Here, no one rests alone. Every story is a soft lantern in the dark. The canopy thickens again, and the stars fade behind leaves. Cricket song and distant water continue, steady as a heartbeat. You don't have to do anything now. Just follow the sound, follow the scent, follow the soft glow when it appears. And beneath it all, the hidden threads keep trading, keep sharing, keep holding. In the next part, we'll step deeper into the soft discovery the night has been preparing. How the forest communicates without voice, through light, through scent, through subtle vibration, and how, in that quiet language, there is a gentle lesson for a restless human heart. The clearing narrows behind you, and the trail becomes intimate again, like a sentence spoken in a softer voice. Above, the canopy closes into overlapping shapes. Below, the ground holds your steps with leaf-muffled kindness. Everything seems designed to keep you from hurrying. If you notice the day tugging at you, an unfinished thought, an old worry, a small loop of planning, let the tug loosen. You don't need to cut it off. You can simply set it down beside the path, the way you might set down a bag you've been carrying too long. The forest will not trip over it. The night will not judge it. It can wait. A thin mist returns, drifting low between roots, and for a moment, the world feels like a watercolor. Edges blur, colors deepen, the air cools your skin, and it's easy to imagine the forest breathing with you, quiet in, quiet out. As you walk, you begin to sense something subtle. The night is full of signals, not loud ones, not flashing signs, just gentle messages passed in ways that don't require a voice. Light, scent, vibration, temperature, timing. a language made for patience. A firefly lifts from the grass, rising slowly, its glow steady for a second, then dim, then bright again. In daylight, that small pulse might be overlooked. In darkness, it feels meaningful, like a syllable, and somewhere nearby, another firefly answers with its own careful flicker, an exchange so simple, so precise, it almost feels like music. The forest uses light the way humans use words, to locate, to invite, to recognize. A glow can mean, here I am. It can mean, follow this. It can mean, this is safe. And because it is rare, it is never wasted. Every small light has a purpose, and the purpose is almost always connection. You pass a cluster of luminous mushrooms again, their greenish shine pooled at the base of an old stump. The glow does not brighten the whole woods. It doesn't try. It stays modest, contained, like a candle behind a curtain. In the presence of that light, you can feel how the night teaches restraint. Nothing shouts, nothing insists, everything offers. If you're someone who has been living in a world of alerts, buzzing phones, bright screens, urgent headlines, this kind of offering can feel like medicine. The nervous system learns by repetition. It becomes fluent in what it hears most. And if what you hear most is urgency, your body begins to speak urgency back. Tonight, the forest is teaching another language. Slow, low, safe. The trail turns, and you reach a place where the ground dips and holds a narrow ribbon of water. A creek, shallow and clear, moving over stones. The sound is not a roar. It's a continuous hush, like silk being pulled through a hand. You pause at the bank, and the water reflects the dark branches above, as if the sky has fallen into the stream and chosen to flow. In that reflection, you see the moon thin, perhaps, or full, softened by moving ripples. Each ripple carries the moon's light downstream, breaking it into fragments, then reassembling it again. It is a small, steady lesson. Even when light is interrupted, it returns. Even when it is broken into pieces, it can still find its way forward. If your mind feels like it has been in pieces, you can rest here with the creek for a moment. You do not need to gather every fragment tonight. You only need to keep breathing and let the flow do what it does. Across the water, the forest continues, and somewhere beyond what you can see, roots continue their quiet trade. Sugars moving down, minerals moving up, information moving sideways, subtle chemical messages, not dramatic, just real. Plants, in their own way, can warn their neighbors. If a leaf is damaged, the plant may release molecules into the air or into the soil, letting others prepare, adjust, protect. It isn't fear, it's awareness. And awareness in nature is often gentle, not panicked. It is a calm change of posture, a quiet tightening of resilience. You step over the creek on smooth stones, and as your foot lands on the other side, the moss compresses like a soft mattress, then springs back. The forest feels forgiving. It absorbs impact. It returns slowly to shape. If you've been absorbing too much impact yourself, imagine borrowing that quality. Let your inner moss soften the landing. Let your thoughts rebound gently, not sharply. Let your heart return to shape without rushing. A breeze moves through the pines, and you hear a long whisper, as if the trees are combing the air. With the breeze comes scent-cool resin, damp earth, faint sweetness from distant blossoms. At night, scent is not background, it's a map. Some creatures navigate by it with astonishing skill. A moth can find a flower by following a thin trail of fragrance carried on the wind. A mammal can identify a familiar path by the layered history of smells left along it. Even you, if you pay attention, can feel how scent changes your state. Pine can steady you. Rain soil can soften you. The smell of smoke can tug open an old memory. The smell of clean sheets can invite the body to surrender. You continue, and the path rises slightly. Through the trees, you glimpse a patch of sky again. The stars look calm, not twinkling wildly, just steady points of distance. It's easy, in that moment, to feel the size of time. Some of that light began its journey long before you were born. Some of it began before your grandparents were children, and yet, it arrives here, now, to meet your eyes in this quiet forest. The universe is generous with its patience. There's a gentle suspense in realizing that the night sky is not just scenery, it is information. It is a compass. It is a quiet archive. And on the ground, tiny lives use it in ways that still feel surprising. Some beetles, for example, have been observed keeping their direction by the bright band of the Milky Way. Imagine that something small, close to the soil, moving with confidence because it can read the galaxy. A creature so near the Earth, guided by the heavens. It is one of the softest bridges between cosmic and ordinary life. When you hear that, you don't need to think of it as a trivia fact. You can think of it as comfort. It means the universe isn't distant in the way we fear. It touches the ground. It reaches the smallest things. It offers guidance without speaking. You walk until the forest becomes denser again. Mist thickens. The air grows cooler. And suddenly, you notice a new kind of stillness. Not emptiness, more like a held breath. The cricket song fades for a moment. The creek is farther now. Even the leaves seem to pause, as if the woods are listening. Then, very softly, the sound returns. A frog calls once from somewhere hidden, and then again, not a loud croak, but a rounded note that seems to come from the water itself. And you remember another gentle truth. Some frogs drink through their skin. They absorb moisture directly from the environment. A quiet kind of replenishment. No rush, no grasping, just presence. The image feels like a metaphor the night is offering you. Maybe rest can be like that. Not something you force, not something you chase. Something you absorb by being still in the right place. You pass a fallen branch, and in the dim light, it looks silvered with dew. Tiny droplets gather at its underside, each one heavy with patience. Eventually, a droplet releases and falls, making a sound so small it barely exists. But the forest hears it, the soil receives it, the roots remember it. When you've lived long enough, you learn that life is built from small releases. A sigh, a softened shoulder, a single choice to stop replaying a conversation, a decision to let tomorrow handle tomorrow. None of those choices look dramatic, but they change the night inside you. Ahead, a faint glow appears again, bioluminescent, steady, low. It comes from a stump half covered in moss, and around it, the mist looks slightly lit, like a veil catching candlelight. You approach without hurry, and you notice something else. Small insects drift near the glow, orbiting in slow loops, not frantic, just drawn. In this moment, the forest's quiet language becomes clearer. The glow is not only beauty, it is message. It says, "Come closer." It says, "Carry this forward." It says, "Help the future find a place." And beneath your feet, the hidden threads mycelium continue their patient work. They weave between roots, not as decoration, but as infrastructure. They are the forest's soft wiring, not metallic, not rigid, living, responsive, resilient. If you could see them, you might be surprised by how far they extend. A single network can stretch through a wide area, connecting multiple trees, multiple plants, multiple pockets of soil. And through that network, resources can move, information can move, support can move. This is the turning point the night has been preparing. The realization that the forest is not a set of separate beings. It is a conversation, a community, a gentle intelligence distributed across many lives. And when you feel that, something in you may loosen, because it suggests a different way to carry your own life, not as a solitary effort, not as a private battle, but as something held, at least in part, by unseen threads, friends, memories, simple kindnesses, a sense of belonging you don't always notice in daylight. If you're listening tonight with worry on your chest, imagine placing that worry into the network. Let the threads take a tiny share of it. Let the ground hold what you cannot hold alone. You do not have to be the entire system. You can be one quiet part within it. The mist moves again, slow and soft. The glow dims behind you as you pass, and the path leads onward, deeper into calm. In the next part of our journey, we'll follow this discovery into its most soothing meaning, how connection, even invisible connection, can become a kind of shelter, how the forest teaches the nervous system to trust the dark, how the universe, far above, and the network, far below, can meet inside a single breath. For now, keep walking slowly, keep breathing softly. Let the night speak in its gentle language, and let your body begin to understand it. Somewhere, a star's light crosses centuries to reach this canopy, while a root's whisper crosses inches to reach another root. Both arrive quietly, both say, "You are here tonight." The trail keeps going, but it no longer feels like you are merely walking through a place. It feels as if you are being welcomed into a pattern. The air is cool enough now that your breath might seem slightly thicker in your imagination, a soft cloud that appears and dissolves. Mist curls near the ground, and when it passes a patch of moss, it leaves the moss darker, richer, as if it has been touched by a careful hand. Above, branches sway a little, then settle again. Below, the soil holds its secrets with kind patience. If you've been listening with your eyes closed, you might notice that the forest in your mind is becoming easier to picture. Not because you're trying harder, but because the rhythm is helping you. Stories do that when they are gentle enough. They build a place inside you, and then they let you rest there. You walk past another fallen log, half sunk into the leaf litter. It is soft with time, and dotted with tiny points of glow. The light is not bright. It's the kind of light you would not want to disturb. A glow that seems to understand the value of quiet. You pause, and you realize something that feels like a warm turning key. The forest's most important movements are not visible. The forest is not only what stands above ground, it is what spreads beneath it. Beneath your feet, fungal threads reach outward, one hair-fine strand at a time. They wrap around root tips and slip through microscopic spaces in soil. They do not bulldoze, they do not demand. They find their way by patience. And if you could see the whole network at once, you might be surprised by how it resembles something you already know. Not a roadmap, not a rigid grid, more like a constellation, a web of points and filaments bright and dim, thick and thin, with certain places acting like gentle hubs. The old tree you passed earlier, the one that felt so steady, might be one of those hubs. Its roots are extensive, and the fungal partners around them are many. In daylight, the tree makes sugars, and in the dark, those sugars travel downward, like quiet nourishment. The fungi, in return, bring back water and minerals from places the tree alone might not reach. A trade, yes, but not the kind that leaves anyone empty. A trade that keeps the whole community alive. This is the soft discovery the night has been leading you toward. In a healthy forest, connection is not optional. It is the way life remains gentle under pressure. If your life has been demanding lately, you might feel your chest soften at that thought, because it suggests that being supported is not weakness. It is nature. A small breeze moves through, and you smell something faintly sweet, like a flower you cannot see. The scent arrives, pours, then thins. It's another signal, another message. The forest does not rely on one language. It speaks in many: light, scent, moisture, vibration, timing. And then, as the trail curves, you see a warmer glow ahead, soft gold instead of green. Not a fire, not bright enough for that, more like lamplight. A small wooden structure appears between the trees, the kind of place you might find on the edge of a protected forest. A ranger's shelter, perhaps, or an old observation cabin. Its windows are dark except for one, where a lantern seems to be burning low, as if someone forgot to blow it out. No voices, no footsteps, only that steady amber light, comforting and still. You approach without urgency. The door is not locked in your imagination. It opens with a quiet ease, and inside, the air is dry and smells faintly of cedar boards and old paper. The lantern sits on a simple table. Its flame is small, steady, patient. On the wall, there is a map, an old field map of the forest edges, worn, corners curled. And beside it, another kind of map, a star chart, pinned carefully as if it matters. Two maps in one room. One of roots and trails and creeks. One of dark sky and distant light. As if whoever stayed here wanted to remember something important. That the ground and the cosmos are always speaking to each other, quietly. You sit for a moment, not in a chair exactly, but in the feeling of being sheltered. The lantern light makes the room softer. It turns sharp corners into gentle shadows. It makes everything look calmer than it looked outside, and your nervous system recognizes the pattern at once. Warm light means safety. Low sound means rest. Stillness means you can let go. On the table, there is an open notebook. The writing is neat, but you don't need to read every word. You only catch fragments, like the way you catch bits of conversation in a dream. Root tips, fungal threads, shared water, and then, in smaller letters, connection is how the forest stays kind. The phrase lands in you like a slow exhale. Outside, the forest continues its night work. Inside, you feel the simple comfort of being near a human trace without being asked to perform for it. No one is expecting you to respond. No one is asking for your productivity. The cabin is just a pause in the story, a pocket of warmth. You look up at the star chart. Constellations are drawn with thin lines, connecting points of light that are, in truth, unimaginably far apart. Humans draw those lines because we crave pattern, meaning, story. But the stars do not need the lines to exist. They shine anyway. And that, too, is a quiet lesson. Connection can be real even when it is invisible. We often draw lines in our minds to make it easier to feel, but the support itself can exist without explanation. In the forest, the lines are not imagined. They are living threads. They carry water, minerals, carbon, and chemical whispers. They help seedlings survive their first hard seasons. They help older trees recover after stress. They move resources toward need. Sometimes, like compassion without a speech. You don't have to treat this like a lecture. You can treat it like a lullaby made of science. One sentence of truth, one sentence of image, and then the mind can drift again. So here is a truth. Beneath most forests, there are networks of fungi that partner with plants. And here is the image. A hidden tapestry under the leaves, stitched slowly in the dark, holding the whole place together. You sit with that image until it becomes soft at the edges, like a blanket. Outside the cabin window, the mist thickens and thins in slow waves. A firefly drifts past the glass, its pulse reflected briefly, then gone. Somewhere deeper in the trees, a frog calls once, and the sound feels round and reassuring. The creek, far away, continues its quiet ribboning of time. If you like, you can take a moment to notice your own body. Are your shoulders lower now? Is your face softer? Is your breath slower, even by a small margin? These are not achievements. They are signs that your body is listening to safety. You return your gaze to the forest map. The trails are marked in simple lines, and you notice how they resemble the star chart. Paths above, paths below, routes through darkness that do not require rushing. It makes you think of your own life and the ways you have navigated without realizing it. You have followed small lights. You have followed scent trails of hope. You have listened for the quiet sounds that told you a place was safe. You have made it through nights when you thought you couldn't. And perhaps that is the soft twist hiding in this gentle journey. The forest's network is not just a fact about nature. It is a mirror. It reminds you that you, too, are more connected than you feel when your mind is tired. Even if you live far from family, even if your days are crowded, even if you sometimes feel like no one understands the weight you carry, there are threads, there are lines, there are small exchanges of kindness you may not count as support because they looked too ordinary. A friend who texted at the right time, a stranger who held a door when your hands were full, a memory that returns like warm light when you least expect it, a song that steadies your breathing, a story that meets you here. In the quiet, you don't have to force gratitude. You don't have to make a list. You can simply let the idea exist. Support can be subtle. Support can be silent. Support can still be real. The lantern's flame flickers once, then steadies. It is almost as if it is breathing. You imagine the forest breathing with it, and for a moment, you feel the world as one gentle system, the canopy above, exchanging air with the sky, the roots below, exchanging nutrients with the soil, the mist, exchanging moisture with leaves, the stars, exchanging light with your eyes, everything giving and receiving in quiet cycles. If you want, you can place your worry into that cycle, not to erase it, only to let it be held. Let the network take a fraction of its weight. Let the lantern light soften its edges. Let the mist blur its sharpness. Let the stars remind you how long time is and how much of it you do not need to carry tonight. You close the notebook gently, not as an ending, but as a pause, and you step back outside, returning to the trail. The forest feels different now. Not because it changed, because you did. You can sense the invisible support beneath you. You can sense the quiet conversation in the air. The night is not an empty space you must endure. It is a living shelter, filled with soft signals and patient care. In the next part of our journey, we'll let this discovery expand in the most soothing way. We'll follow the mist deeper, beneath a clearer view of the Milky Way, and we'll let the forest teach us how to release thoughts the way dew releases from a leaf, slowly, naturally, without struggle. The path feels padded with silence, and every step seems to lower you closer to sleep. For now, take a gentle breath in, and as you breathe out, imagine the lantern light fading behind you, while the calm remains inside your chest, steady as a star. You step back onto the trail, and the cabin's warm window becomes a small square of gold behind the trees. It doesn't vanish all at once. It fades the way a good thought fades slowly, without being taken away, until it simply becomes part of you. The night air is cooler now, but not harsh. It feels clean, like a freshly washed sheet hung outside to dry. Mist threads between trunks, moving in lazy ribbons that never hurry, never collide, never argue. In the hush, your own breath becomes a sound you can notice without judging. In and out, gentle, even, quiet. The path rises, subtly, as if the forest is leading you toward a higher balcony of sky. With each step, the ground grows a little drier, the leaf litter a little lighter underfoot, and the scents change. Too less wet stone, more pine resin and cooled bark. A few needles fall somewhere above, landing without a sound. If you've been carrying the day in your shoulders, this is a good moment to let it slide down. Imagine the weight draining through your arms and into the soil, where the hidden threads know how to hold heavy things. The forest has been holding gravity for millions of years. It can hold your tiredness for a while. As the trail curves, the trees open into a gentle ridge, not a dramatic lookout, just a place where the canopy thins and the sky becomes wider. The mist still moves below, pooling in the hollows, collecting in the low places like a soft sea. Above it, the stars appear more clearly. They arrive like old friends who never stopped shining, even when you were too busy to look up. For a moment, you stand still, and because you are still, the night becomes even more detailed. You can hear a distant creak again, a faint ribbon of sound. You can hear a cricket's steady counting somewhere in the brush. You can hear your own heartbeat, not loud, just present, like a small drum tucked deep in the chest. Somewhere, an owl calls once, then rests. No urgency, no alarm, just a brief note placed into the dark, like a pebble dropped into calm water. If your mind wants to follow that sound, let it follow. And if it wants to return, let it return. This is the night's lesson. You can move without rushing. You can notice without grabbing. You can exist without proving anything. The sky above you is deep blue, almost black, but not empty. It is textured with light points and dustings, and faint bands like breath across glass. And then, slowly, you recognize it. A pale sweep of the Milky Way, as if someone has brushed soft chalk across velvet. It is hard to remember, sometimes, that the Milky Way is not a decoration. It is our home galaxy seen from within. The bright band is the dense plane of stars, too many to count, too far to separate, blending into a quiet glow. Light that has traveled for years, for centuries, for longer than you have been alive. arriving at your eyes with gentle patience. You do not need to think about the numbers. You can simply feel the softness of the fact. The universe is very large, and still it reaches you kindly, without asking you to do anything in return. A thin cloud drifts across the stars, and the Milky Way dims for a moment. Then the cloud passes, and the glow returns. It is a perfect, wordless demonstration of how thoughts work. A thought can cross your mind and briefly cover the sky inside you, but the sky is still there. It has not been damaged. It is only veiled. And when the thought moves on, the light returns. If you like, you can practice that now. Let a thought come. Let it pass. No fight. No argument. Just drift. Mist moves again below the ridge, and you watch it as if it is teaching you how to let go. Fog does not cling. It does not brace. It travels by soft agreement with air and temperature, reshaping itself each moment without complaint. Imagine your worries doing the same, not disappearing in a dramatic way, just loosening their grip, becoming lighter, less sharp, more like mist, something you can see through. You follow the ridge trail a little farther, and the forest changes mood again. Here the trees are taller, their trunks darker, their needles catching a faint silver edge where moonlight touches. The air smells faintly of cedar and cool sap. Your steps are slower now, not because you are tired, but because the night feels like it is rocking you. On one side of the ridge, you can see down into the forest's lower bowl. Mist pools there, and in the mist, you notice tiny flickers, fireflies, or distant reflections. A few gentle pulses that look like the ground is breathing. On the other side, the sky is open. Stars, wide and calm. You think again of the hidden threads under the leaves. The wood wide web, a net of patience and sharing. It exists whether you remember it or not. And that, too, is comforting. Some support does not require your attention to keep supporting you. There is a kind of relief in that, because so many things in your day demand attention alerts, deadlines, decisions. But the forest does not demand, it offers. If tonight's story is bringing you calm, you can let your face relax. Let your eyebrows soften. Let the muscles around your eyes release. Somewhere in your body, let a small knot untie itself. The ridge path leads toward a cluster of stones, rounded and quiet, as if the earth placed them here for sitting. You lower yourself onto one. It is cool beneath you, but not uncomfortable. The stone holds the day's lost warmth in its center, and you can feel a faint steadiness through it. From here, the view is gentle and complete. Trees below, sky above, mist between. A world in layers. And suddenly, you remember something about time. In daylight, time feels like it is chasing you. In night like this, time feels like it is holding you. Slowly, patiently, as if it has always been willing to move at your pace, if only you asked. You watch a star shimmer slightly, perhaps not the star, but the air moving between you and it. Even starlight must travel through atmosphere, through breath and weather. It arrives softened, like a message delivered through many hands, and you realize that many of your own memories arrive the same way. They travel through years, through changes, through distance. They arrive a little softened, but still real. If a memory appears now, let it be gentle. Maybe you remember a summer night long ago. Maybe you remember sitting in a car with the windows down, a radio low, the road dark and calm. Maybe you remember the first time you saw a sky full of stars and felt small in the best way. If that memory comes, you can let it sit beside you. You don't have to analyze it. You can just let it warm you. Because the point of a memory at night is not to teach, it is to soothe. It is to remind your nervous system what peace has felt like before, so it can recognize peace again. The mist below thickens, then thins, like a slow tide. A droplet forms on a pine needle overhead, gathers weight, and finally releases. It falls, and you almost hear it land. Almost. A sound too small to demand attention, and yet the forest responds. The soil receives. Roots drink. Threads carry. Nothing is wasted. In places like this, even the science feels like a lullaby. Under the leaves, the mycelium threads are thin as hair, but they can stretch and branch and reconnect, creating pathways that last through seasons. It is a relationship practiced until it becomes the forest's habit. And fog, this soft veil you're watching, can be part of that habit too. When air cools, it gathers water from itself, turning invisible moisture into visible mist. As it drifts through branches, it leaves droplets behind, the way a careful visitor leaves gifts without waking anyone. The forest wakes in the morning with water it never had to fight for. If you've been fighting for everything lately, you can borrow that image. Imagine your rest arriving like fog, quietly, patiently, not earned through struggle, but received through stillness. Here, no one rests alone. Even in a solitary ridge of trees, there are connections underfoot, and light above, and breath within you. If you want, you can whisper to yourself without sound something simple. I am safe tonight, right here, now. I can let the day go. I can be carried for a while. And if a thought insists on returning, you don't need to push it away. You can give it the same kindness you would give a child who woke from a dream. You can say, softly, I see you. And then you can let it settle back down, like a leaf returning to earth. That is another quiet lesson. Small releases matter. A single exhale matters. A single unclenched hand matters. A single moment of allowing matters. You take another breath in, easy, unforced, and as you breathe out, you imagine the day sliding away from you, not as loss, but as completion, the way twilight completes daylight, the way night completes a day's work, the way rest completes effort. Here, under the Milky Way, you do not need to fix anything. You do not need to perform. You do not need to hold the whole world. You only need to let yourself be held. The ridge is silent now, except for the soft sounds that never stop. A distant creak, a cricket's rhythm, the hush of mist. Above, the galaxy continues to glow, patient and wide. Below, the forest continues to trade in kindness, thread by thread, and you can let your thoughts do what mist does. Let them drift like fog between trees. Let them thin, let them blur, let them move on. In the next part of our gentle journey, we will follow the trail as it descends from this ridge, returning to the deeper shelter of the canopy. We'll bring the sky's calm with us, and we'll let the forest guide us toward an even softer quiet, where the body can finally surrender and sleep can arrive without being invited. For now, stay here a little longer, if you like. Breathe, look up, and feel how the night, so often misunderstood, is actually full of gentle care. The trail begins to slope downward from the ridge, and you move with it, as if you are following a slow wave back toward shore. Above, the sky is still wide, but the trees gradually lean in again, narrowing the view into soft windows. The Milky Way fades behind needles and leaves, not as if it is gone, but as if the forest is gently tucking it away for you, like a blanket folded at the foot of the bed. The air changes as you descend. It grows slightly warmer, slightly wetter, like a room where a kettle has been simmering quietly. Mist thickens in the low places and thins on the higher steps, flowing around trunks with the patient grace of water. When it brushes your skin in imagination, it feels cool and clean, like a calm hand on a warm forehead. Somewhere behind you, the ridge keeps its open view of stars. Somewhere ahead, the canopy offers something different: shelter. This is the forest's nighttime kindness, its way of saying that you can rest inside the dark without being exposed to it. The branches above form a ceiling that does not press down, but instead holds space. The ground below receives each step without complaint, and in between, the night holds your breathing like a cradle. As you walk, you notice the soundscape changing again. The distant creek grows louder for a few minutes, then quieter, then louder, as if you are moving in and out of its reach. Crickets continue their gentle pulse, steady and unambitious. A soft rustle moves in the understory, not threatening, only alive. The forest doesn't announce itself with drama. It simply continues. If you're listening in bed, this is the moment you can let your body sink a little deeper into whatever supports you. Let the mattress take more of your weight. Let your shoulders widen. Let your hands rest open, as if they have finally been told they can stop holding anything. The trail curves around a stand of ferns. Their fronds catch droplets of fog and dew, and each droplet glows faintly where it holds moonlight. The effect is quiet and cinematic, like a slow, silent snowfall made of water instead of ice. A droplet gathers at the tip of a frond. It trembles, it releases, it falls, and the fern does not react, because it knows the rhythm of receiving and letting go. You keep walking, and you begin to feel how the forest organizes rest, not by shutting everything down, but by shifting the work to softer hands. Leaves fold, temperature drops, moisture collects. Light becomes smaller and more meaningful. Under the soil, the fungal threads continue their exchanges, moving water and minerals in small, steady deliveries that never need applause. It's easy to imagine those threads as gentle corridors, not tunnels, not rigid pipes, but living paths, flexible and responsive, like breath. They reach toward need. They withdraw when they must. They reconnect when conditions allow. They are a reminder that resilience is often quiet. It is often hidden. It is often made of tiny choices repeated over time. You pass a tree whose bark is patterned with pale lichen. In the dim light, the lichen looks like brushstrokes of ash and silver. Lichen is itself a partnership, a living collaboration between fungus and algae or cyanobacteria, sharing shelter and food in exchange. Even on a single trunk, the forest repeats its theme. Life stays gentle by staying connected. The path narrows, the canopy thickens, and now the darkness feels even safer because it feels deliberate, like a theater, lowering the lights before the calmest scene, like a bedroom dimming towards sleep. You begin to realize that the night is not trying to hide things from you. It is trying to soften them. A thin wind slides through the branches, and with it comes scent again: cool pine, damp leaf, the faint sweetness of decay turning into soil. It's not a sad smell, it's a comforting one. It means the forest is recycling its own stories into nourishment. It means time is not only taking, it is also giving back. If you've ever felt afraid of time, afraid of how quickly months move, how quietly years slip away, you can borrow this image. In the forest, time is not a thief. It is a gardener. It breaks down what is finished and returns it as food for what is next. It turns old leaves into new earth. It turns fallen wood into soft ground. It turns endings into beginnings without making a sound. You step into a lower hollow where mist has pooled, and the world becomes close and intimate again. The trees are only partly visible, their trunks fading upward into grey. Farther away, everything dissolves into gentle blur. It feels like being inside a dream that has decided not to be sharp. If your thoughts have been sharp, if they've been cutting into you all day, you can let this fog teach you another way. Blur is not failure tonight. Blur is mercy. In the mist, a firefly appears. One small pulse of light, then another. It floats slowly, not darting, as if it is as sleepy as you are. Its glow reflects briefly in a droplet on a leaf, doubling into two tiny lanterns. Then the reflection trembles and goes out, while the firefly continues. A simple lesson. Light can change shape, but it can keep going. You follow the path until you hear the creek more clearly again. It is close now, and the air around it is cooler. Stones along the bank hold moisture and shine in a faint sheen. The water moves over them with soft persistence, shaping them slowly. It is a kind of patience that is hard to learn as a human, but you can feel it. You can borrow it. You stop at the creek, and the canopy above forms a dark frame around a narrow strip of sky. A few stars are visible there, faint but steady, like distant candles. The creek reflects them in broken pieces. Each ripple rearranges the reflections, scattering them, gathering them again. Nothing is lost. It is only moving. If your mind has been rearranging the same worries, scattering them, gathering them again, you can let the creek take over the job. You can give the mind permission to be less precise tonight. You can let your attention rest on the simplest rhythm, the sound of moving water, the rise and fall of your breath. You cross the creek on a fallen log, wide and stable, softened by age. Moss covers part of it, making the surface feel gentle, even in imagination. On the far side, the trail becomes quieter still, as if the forest is guiding you toward a deeper pocket of hush. Here, the sounds are fewer, but the quiet is fuller. You can hear the slightest movement of leaves. You can hear a distant insect wing, then nothing. You can hear your own breathing again, and it feels like a shared language with the night. Slow, low, safe. You continue until you reach a place where the ground is especially soft with pine needles. It feels like the forest has laid down a carpet for you. The needles are dry on top, damp beneath. They hold the scent of resin and rain. They quiet your steps so completely that walking begins to feel like floating. You pause there for a moment, not because you are deciding anything, but because the softness feels like an invitation. In this small pause, you notice how the forest holds the idea of enough. Enough light to guide, enough sound to comfort, enough movement to remind you that life is still here, yet nothing excessive, nothing urgent. If you imagine looking down, you might see the tiniest architecture along the ground. Needles overlapping like shingles, small cones half buried, a thin line where an ant once traveled earlier in the evening and then disappeared into darkness. Under this carpet, the soil keeps breathing. Microbes work slowly, turning what fell into what will grow. Fungal threads run like soft mail routes, carrying tiny parcels of water and minerals, delivering them without knocking, without waking anyone. Roots receive, then pass along what they can. It is not a dramatic generosity. It is simply how the forest stays balanced. And in that balance, you may feel a quiet permission for your own mind. You do not need to squeeze meaning out of every moment. You can let tonight be simple. You can let it be just a room of air and darkness and quiet sound. You can let your thoughts become less like tasks and more like leaves resting where they land. If a thought returns anyway, you can picture it settling into the needles as if it has found a place to lie down. It can be there without being solved. It can be there without being fed. The forest has always known how to hold unfinished things until morning. Somewhere behind the trees, the moon shifts, and a faint silver changes the pattern of shadows. The change is so slow, you might only notice it afterward, like the way your body relaxes when you stop paying attention to it. That is how rest often arrives, quietly in the background, while you are simply allowing, safely, fully. And then, without warning but with great gentleness, you feel a kind of inner permission widen. The day seems farther away. The edges of your thoughts seem less important. The story has carried you to a threshold, not of excitement, but of surrender. This is the forest's deeper gift. It does not demand that you be brave. It teaches you that you already are, simply by being here, simply by continuing, simply by breathing through another night. If tonight's journey has brought you a little peace, you can leave a gentle comment when you wake or when you feel ready. A simple word is enough. Here, your presence matters, even quietly. And if you'd like to keep traveling through nights like this, don't forget to subscribe for more peaceful bedtime journeys on Sleepy Insight channel. Now, let the path keep going without you having to effort. Let the images keep flowing without you having to hold them. Let the mist soften whatever remains tense. Let the creek carry whatever remains heavy. In the next part, we'll follow the trail to the forest's quiet heart, where the hidden network beneath the roots feels closest, and where the night's final lesson arrives like a warm breath. That slow is not stopping, and darkness is not empty, and you do not need to do anything else now but rest. You continue along the needle-soft path, and it begins to feel less like you are traveling somewhere, and more like you are arriving inside something. The forest grows denser, not in a closing way, but in a sheltering way, as if the branches have decided to lean closer to keep the night gentle around you. The air here is cooler again, laced with moisture. Mist drifts through the understory in thin layers, and every so often it gathers into a small, slow swirl, then relaxes back into the larger hush. The sound of the creek is fainter now, but you can still sense it, like a memory of water moving somewhere beyond the trees. If you are listening with heavy eyelids, you can let them stay heavy. If you are listening with a restless mind, you can let the restlessness soften. There is no test to pass tonight. There is no lesson you must remember. The forest does not ask you to understand everything. It only invites you to be here, quietly, for a while. The trail narrows between two old trunks. Their bark is dark and textured, ridged like waves frozen in wood. Moss climbs their shaded sides, thick and velvety. You imagine running your hand along that moss, and it feels like touching the softest fabric. Moss holds water the way kindness holds a tired person, without insisting, without squeezing, simply offering. A few steps farther, you notice the ground changing again. The needles give way to leaf litter, damp and springy, and the scent deepens, earthy. mineral, alive. The forest floor is a quilt of decomposing leaves, tiny twigs, and half-hidden seeds. It is not messy, it is intentional. It is the forest's way of turning yesterday into tomorrow, quietly, piece by piece. Somewhere in the dark, a small night insect sings once, then pauses. The pause is long enough to feel like part of the song. Then the note returns, steady, unhurried. The night's music is never anxious. It does not build toward a climax. It simply keeps time the way a heartbeat keeps time reliably, without demanding attention. You step around a fallen branch, and in the dimness you see another soft glow. Not the pulsing of fireflies this time, but a calm, steady luminescence at the base of a stump. It is faint, like a nightlight meant for the woods. You move closer, and the glow reveals tiny mushrooms, their caps pale, their edges outlined by greenish light. You remember, gently, that this glow is not here to impress you. It is part of a quiet strategy, a way to attract insects that can carry spores to new places, spreading life along the forest's hidden roots. But the fact lands softly, like a feather, and then it becomes image again. Small lanterns under a stump, guiding tiny travelers through darkness. And then you feel it. The forest's heart is not above ground at all. It is below. You don't need to dig. You don't need to see. You can simply imagine the roots beneath you, branching and intertwining, reaching into soil that is rich with moisture and minerals. And alongside those roots, mycelium threads spread like a living lace, connecting one plant to another, one patch of ground to the next. The network is quiet, but it is not passive. It is active in the way breathing is active. It is always exchanging. Sugars made in daylight drift down into the dark. Minerals gathered in darkness drift back up toward leaves. Water moves through fine channels, guided by need and availability. Information travels too, in chemical traces, in subtle shifts, in the forest's slow intelligence. In daylight, we often think of intelligence as something loud and quick, something that wins arguments or solves puzzles. Here, intelligence looks different. It looks like cooperation. It looks like patience. It looks like a system that does not panic when clouds cover the sun, because it has learned how to share, how to store, how to wait. If you have been living in a world that rewards urgency, the forest offers you another definition of strength. Not force, but steadiness. Not speed, but balance. Not isolation, but connection. The trail leads you to a small hollow, where the ground dips and holds dampness like a cupped hand. In this hollow, the mist is thicker, and the air feels almost sweet with moisture. The trees around it are tall and quiet, their branches high enough that the understory feels like a private room. You step into the hollow, and the sound of your own movement becomes softer, as if the air itself is padded. This feels like the quiet heart of the forest, the place where the night's signals gather and settle. It is not dramatic, it is simply calm. You sit, in your imagination, on a low fallen log. The log is cool and slightly damp, covered in a thin layer of moss. The moss yields gently under you, like the forest is offering a cushion. Your hands rest loosely in your lap. Your shoulders drop. Your breath finds a slower pace. Above, the canopy is dense, but there are small openings where you can see a few stars. They look far away, steady and patient. Below, you imagine the network again, the wood-wide web, threads and roots holding the forest together in silence. In this moment, the story's soft twist opens wider. The forest's network is not only a scientific wonder, it is a comforting metaphor for the way humans survive, too. Not by being endlessly strong alone, but by being held by friendships, by family, by communities, by quiet acts of care, by memories that return like warm light. Maybe you have someone in your life who is part of your unseen network. Someone who checked in when you were tired. Someone who listened without fixing. Someone who shared what they had, even if it was only time. Or maybe your network is made of smaller threads. A neighbor's wave, a barista's kindness, a co-worker's quiet support, a pet's steady presence, a song that calms your breathing. You do not have to name every thread. You can simply feel the truth of it. You are more connected than your anxious mind allows you to believe. The hollow grows quieter still. The insect song fades until it is almost imagined. A distant owl calls once, then silence returns. The mist continues to drift, slow as sleep. If you want, you can practice letting go the way the forest lets go. Leaves fall when they are ready, not when they are forced. Dew releases when it is heavy enough, not when it is commanded. The night does not rush the morning. It simply holds its own hours with calm certainty. So you can let your thoughts be like leaves. If a thought falls, it can rest. If it decomposes into something softer, that is fine. If it remains a whole thought until morning, that is fine too. You do not need to fix it tonight. You notice your breathing again, in and out, slow, easy. Each exhale feels like lowering a dimmer switch inside your chest. Each inhale feels like a soft refill, not of energy, but of safety. The forest seems to respond to that rhythm. The mist sways, the branches settle. The unseen threads below continue their exchanges without hurry, and you begin to feel that the darkness is not something you must endure. It is a sheltering medium, like water holding a swimmer, like air holding a bird, like earth holding roots. Outside this hollow, the world may still be busy. Lights may still be bright. Phones may still be buzzing, but here, in this quiet heart, the night has its own rules. The rule is softness. The rule is patience. The rule is that you are allowed to stop trying. If tonight's story has reminded you of a beautiful memory, you can share it when you feel ready. If it has reminded you that rest is possible, you can let that reminder sink in without effort. And if it has made you feel less alone, you can hold that feeling like a small, warm stone in your palm. You might notice, too, how the forest changes the way you think about time. In the daytime, time often feels like a straight line with sharp edges, a schedule you must keep, a clock that never softens. But in the hollow, time feels circular and slow, like rings inside a tree trunk. Each ring is a season that came and went quietly, leaving behind a gentle record. If you imagine those rings, you can almost hear them. Spring's tender rain, summer's warm breathing, autumn's soft fall of leaves, winter's cool stillness. None of those seasons had to prove anything. They simply arrived, did their work, and passed the way mist passes through branches present, then gone, then present again in another form. Somewhere, long ago, people stood in forests like this and looked up at the same sky. They did not have glowing screens in their hands. They had firelight and stories and patience. They watched the stars and learned to find their way by them. They noticed the Milky Way and felt the same quiet awe you feel now. They drew maps on stone and parchment, trying to capture what the sky was saying, and in doing so they built a bridge between the vast and the intimate. Even ancient temples and observatories were, in their own way, acts of listening, quiet promises that the sky mattered, that time could be met with reverence, that a person could stand in darkness and still feel guided. Tonight, you don't need a monument. You have the hollow, you have the mist, you have a few steady stars peeking through leaves, and you have the quiet knowledge that guidance can be gentle. It can come as the creek's calm persistence, as the unseen threads underfoot, and as your own breath returning home, again and again. Let that thought settle the way fog settles, without effort, without argument, just a simple settling. Soon, we will begin to drift toward an even deeper quiet, where the story becomes less like walking and more like floating. In the next part, we'll follow the forest's signals into a final expansion, where the cosmos above and the network below meet in one soft understanding, and where the body can settle into sleep as naturally as fog settles into a hollow. For now, stay here with the moss and mist. Let the glow under the stump fade into the background. Let the canopy hold you. Let your breath be the only thing you need to do. The hollow holds you for a while longer, and then, without any urgency, you begin to move again. Not because you must go somewhere, but because the story has its own gentle current, and you're letting it carry you. The path out of the hollow is almost invisible, under mist and leaf litter, but your body seems to know where it is, the way it knows how to breathe. Even when you stop thinking about breath, you take a few slow steps, and the forest feels even quieter now, as if it has lowered its voice to match the drowsiness in your chest. The insect song returns in small fragments, then fades again. The creek becomes a distant hush. The wind above is so mild, you can only sense it by the way leaves shift and then still. It's here, in this softer layer of night, that the forest begins to feel less like a place outside you and more like a place inside you. The shapes of trunks, the veil of fog, the faint glows near the ground, everything seems to move closer to the rhythm of your breathing. And now, through a small opening in the canopy, the sky appears again, not wide like the ridge, but intimate, just a small window, framed by branches. A few stars sit inside that window, steady as quiet promises. And beyond them, faintly, there is a pale smear of light, another hint of the Milky Way, like a soft fingerprint left on the dark. You stop and look up. It's strange, sometimes, how a small view can feel larger than a wide one. A single patch of sky between leaves can feel like a secret. It can feel like the universe is leaning closer, lowering itself to your level. In that moment, you remember the beetle, the tiny traveler that can use the stars as a guide. You remember how the cosmos, unimaginably vast, can still be read by something close to the soil. And that thought creates a gentle bridge inside you. The vast and the ordinary are not separate. They're connected by quiet threads of light and instinct and patience. If you've been feeling small in a way that hurts, this is a different kind of smallness. This is the kind that comforts, the kind that says, you don't have to hold everything, the kind that says, you can be one small life under a big sky, and that is enough. You keep walking, and the path leads to a place where the forest floor changes texture again. The ground becomes darker, richer, more spongy, thicker, with decomposed leaves and old wood. Here, the soil feels alive in a way you can almost sense through your feet. Moisture clings to everything. Roots lie close to the surface. Mushrooms appear in small clusters, some pale, some brown, some with faint glimmers of glow if you look long enough. In this place, the hidden network feels nearer. The wood wide web is not an abstract idea. It's a living reality beneath every step. Threads of mycelium weave through soil like nerves through a body. They wrap around root tips, extend outward, branch, reconnect. They form pathways for water, minerals, and the slow movement of nourishment. In daylight, you might think of the forest as an above-ground sculpture, trees rising, leaves catching sun, branches moving with wind. But at night, you feel what the forest truly is: a layered system, a conversation between sky and soil. And that's when the story's calm discovery deepens into its softest truth. The forest is a meeting place. The cosmos touches the ground here. Not dramatically, not with explosions or noise, but with the gentlest touches: starlight guiding tiny travelers, moonlight feeding the night's glow, and time itself moving through rings of wood and through cycles of dew and fog. You stop near a wide tree trunk, and you notice something small at its base. A patch of luminous fungi, like a greenish halo against damp bark. The glow is faint, but it is enough to reveal the texture of the wood, the beads of moisture clinging to moss, the tiny movements of drifting insects that pass by like slow dust motes. The glow feels like a miniature echo of the stars, a small galaxy on the forest floor. The same theme repeated at different scales: light in darkness, offering orientation. And that's when you realize something that might make your chest loosen. You are built for this. Your body, your nervous system, your deep instincts, they recognize the comfort of low light. They recognize the safety of steady rhythms. They recognize the softness of quiet surroundings. Modern life sometimes forgets that. It keeps lights bright late into the night, keeps sound constant, keeps the mind alert. But the body was shaped by places like this, nights that were dark but not frightening, nights that were quiet but not empty, nights where you could hear water and wind and distant animal calls, and your brain could relax because it knew the environment. It knew the language. Tonight, the forest is re-teaching that language to you. You continue down the path until you find a small pool, still water gathered in a shallow depression, fed by fog, drip, and hidden seepage. It isn't large, but it's calm, and its surface is dark enough to reflect the canopy above. When you lean closer in imagination, you see the stars in the water, trembling as the slightest ripple passes. It's a breathtaking kind of smallness. Stars held in a pool no larger than a table. Cosmos, captured in a quiet mirror on the ground. A droplet falls from a leaf and lands on the pool's surface, sending rings outward. The rings touch the reflected stars and break them apart. Then the reflection reforms. The pool teaches the same lesson the creek taught. Light can be scattered and still return. If you've been scattered, you can return too. Not all at once, not dramatically, just slowly, in the way reflections settle when the water becomes still again. The mist thickens slightly, and the pool becomes a softer mirror, blurring edges. The stars in it turn into faint smudges of light, and you realize clarity isn't always what you need before sleep. Softness is what you need. The blur is not loss, it is kindness. You sit beside the pool, and the forest seems to close around you in a calm circle. The canopy above holds the sky in small windows. The soil below holds the network in hidden corridors. The mist between holds everything in quiet privacy. This is the place where the cosmos touches the ground, and where your thoughts can finally begin to touch rest. If you like, take one gentle breath in. And as you breathe out, imagine your mind becoming like this pool. Still, dark, reflective, not demanding, not resisting. A thought may pass through, like a leaf shadow crossing the surface. That's okay. The pool doesn't panic. It simply keeps being a pool. A memory may appear, like a star reflection. That's okay. The pool doesn't try to hold it tightly. It lets it shimmer and soften. A feeling may rise, like a ripple from a droplet. That's okay. The pool doesn't fight it. The rings widen, then fade. You stay there with the pool until the idea of holding anything feels less necessary. And in that surrender, you can feel the story's gentle expansion. You are part of a system too. You have your own hidden networks. Your body is a web of nerves and vessels, sharing resources, sending signals, balancing needs. Your relationships are networks too, visible and invisible, threads of care and memory and presence. And just as the forest is supported by its unseen exchanges, you are supported by yours. Even when you don't notice, even when you forget, even when you feel alone. Here, no one rests alone. Every story is a soft lantern in the dark. If this story has brought you calm, you can leave a gentle comment for yourself whenever you feel ready. It can be just one word. It can be a simple reminder: I rested, I breathed, I was here. And if you'd like more nights like this, more gentle journeys through nature, science, and the quiet beauty of the universe, don't forget to subscribe to Sleepy Insight channel. Now, the mist grows thicker, and the pool becomes less visible, as if the night is slowly dimming the scene. The luminous fungi near the tree trunk continues to glow faintly, like a final star on the ground. The canopy above shifts with a slow breeze, and the sky window changes shape. In the next part, we'll begin to let the story settle toward its deepest quiet. We'll release the last threads of thinking. We'll let the images become softer, like fog dissolving into air. And we'll allow sleep to arrive not as something you must achieve, but as something the night has been gently preparing all along. For now, stay beside the pool. Let the reflected stars blur. Let the ripples fade. Let your breath become the only rhythm you need. You remain beside the small pool for a while, long enough to feel its stillness settle into you. The reflected stars blur as mist thickens, and the luminous fungi at the base of the tree becomes a softer glow, like a lamp turned down low. Nothing in the forest feels like it is ending. It feels like it is folding, the way a day folds into night, the way effort folds into rest, the way thoughts fold into a quieter layer beneath thinking. When you stand again, it is unhurried. You don't rise with urgency. You rise the way a leaf lifts in a slow breeze naturally, without forcing. The path ahead is dim, but it is familiar now. You've walked through enough of this night to trust it. The forest has shown you its language. Soft signals, steady rhythms, patience without pressure. You take a few steps, and the canopy above seems lower, not heavy sheltering. The mist keeps you company, drifting in and out of your imagined vision. It blurs the distance and makes everything intimate. Trunks become silhouettes. Leaves become textures. The ground becomes a soft agreement to hold you. The insect song returns in a slow pattern, then pauses, then returns. A creek murmurs somewhere far away. A branch settles with a quiet creak, then stillness again. It's the kind of soundscape that doesn't demand attention. It simply accompanies you. And as you walk, you begin to feel the story turning inward. The forest has given you facts. Yes, bioluminescent fungi glowing to invite tiny travelers. Mycelium threads trading water and minerals. Small creatures reading the stars. But now the facts begin to loosen in your hands. They become less like information and more like comfort. You don't need to remember every detail. You can let the science be what it truly is at night. A gentle kind of poetry. One truth, one image, then drift. Here is a truth. The forest is full of quiet communication. Here is the image. Light pulsing like breath. Scent moving like invisible letters. Water arriving as fog. And threads beneath your feet carrying support through darkness. Now you can let that image soften, as if it is being wrapped in mist. The path curves past a cluster of young saplings. Their leaves are smaller, darker, glossy with moisture. They stand close together, sheltered by the larger trees around them. And you remember the hidden network again, not as a concept, but as a feeling. Seedlings often do not survive alone. They need shade, they need moisture, they need soil that has been softened by decades of leaf fall and fungal work. They need, in other words, a community. The forest is not built on heroic independence. It is built on distributed support. And in that thought, you find the night's meaning. The one that arrives quietly, without announcing itself as a lesson. You don't have to be heroic tonight. You don't have to be a lone tree standing in full sun with no help. You can be a sapling under a canopy. You can be held. If you've been living with a sense that you must carry everything alone, your work, your family, your worries, your future, this is a place to set that down. Not forever, just for tonight. You can let the forest carry it for a while, the way soil carries roots, the way fog carries moisture, the way the sky carries stars. You walk until you find a place where the trail widens slightly, then fades into a softer ground cover. Pine needles, moss, and leaf litter blend into a surface that feels like a quilt. The forest seems to offer you a natural stopping place, the kind of quiet clearing where you could sit without being seen by the world. You lower yourself there again on a fallen log, or a stone, or simply into the feeling of settling. Your body becomes heavier, not in an uncomfortable way, but in a safe way. The kind of heaviness that tells you sleep is near. Now, in this deeper quiet, your mind might try one last time to gather the story into something to hold. It might want to summarize. It might want to remember. It might want to make meaning like it does in daytime. But you don't have to. You can let everything drift like mist. Let the fireflies become a memory of breathing light. Let the fungi become a memory of green glow. Let the mycelium become a memory of unseen threads. Let the Milky Way become a memory of soft chalk across velvet. Let the pool become a memory of stars held in water. You don't need to hold the facts. You only need to keep the feeling. Safe, slow, connected. This is the night's gentle philosophy. Darkness is not empty. It is full of quiet organization. It is full of life that knows when to move and when to rest. It is full of patience, full of exchange, full of invisible support. And because of that, darkness does not have to be feared. Many people associate darkness with uncertainty, with the things you can't see, with the parts of life you can't control. But the forest shows a kinder truth. Not seeing everything doesn't mean nothing is there. Not controlling everything doesn't mean you are unsafe. It can mean you are finally allowed to stop monitoring, stop scanning, stop bracing. The forest's hidden network does not need light to do its work. It functions in the dark. It thrives in the dark. It teaches you that not everything meaningful happens in bright clarity. Some of the most important healing happens when you cannot see it happening, when you are asleep, when the body repairs, when the mind reorganizes, when memory settles into place, when stress hormones slowly lower and the nervous system returns to baseline. Sleep is not a pause from life. It is part of life's intelligence. If you like, you can take one gentle breath in now, just one. And as you breathe out, imagine your body entering that hidden mode of intelligence, the way the forest enters its night shift, quietly, smoothly, without needing your supervision. Let your shoulders sink. Let your face soften. Let your tongue rest. Let your jaw loosen. If there's a thought that keeps coming back, you can offer it a seat at the edge of the clearing, like a quiet visitor. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to invite it closer. You can simply let it sit there until it gets tired and drifts away. The forest does not chase away its sounds. It lets them fade naturally. The cricket's rhythm slows or pauses. The owl calls once and then rests. The creek continues, but your attention no longer has to follow it. You can do the same with your mind. The mist thickens, and the world becomes less defined. Trees become shapes. Shapes become shadows. Shadows become softness. The story becomes less like walking and more like floating. And now, in the softest part of the night, you can return to the simplest truth of all. You are here. You are safe. You are allowed to rest. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below when you're ready. If it brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself. And if you'd like more peaceful nighttime journeys, don't forget to subscribe to Sleepy Insight channel. Here, no one rests alone. Every story is a soft lantern in the dark. In the final part, we'll let the forest dim further. Let the images dissolve into gentle fog and guide your body into the last, easiest surrender, where sleep is not something you reach for, but something that arrives quietly, like dew forming on a leaf. The clearing holds you in its quiet softness, and the night begins to dim in a way that feels almost ceremonial. Not like a curtain snapping shut, but like a lamp being turned down one gentle notch at a time. The forest doesn't end the day with force. It eases it away, as if it understands that the mind needs kindness to fall asleep. Mist moves through the trees in slow, careful drifts. It does not rush. It does not gather speed. It simply glides, reshaping itself as it passes trunks and ferns, as if the forest is breathing in a larger body than you can see. The air feels cool and clean, and in that coolness your thoughts grow quieter, less sharp, less eager to keep speaking. If your eyes are closed, you may notice the images are softer now. The outlines are blurred. The story is becoming less like a movie and more like a dream. That's okay. That's natural. In fact, it's perfect, because you don't need to hold any picture clearly anymore. You can let the fireflies be only a memory of gentle, pulsing light. You can let the luminous fungi be only a faint suggestion of green glow beneath a stump. You can let the Milky Way be only the feeling of a wide sky, patient and kind. You can let the wood wide web be only the comfort of knowing that unseen support exists. You can let it all drift. Imagine the forest, now, as a place that is settling into its night shift fully. Leaves fold, dew gathers, moisture clings softly to moss. The creek continues its quiet work over stones. Threads beneath the soil continue their exchanges, without needing light, without needing attention, without needing any approval. The forest does not worry about whether it is doing the night correctly. It simply does the night. And you can do the same with sleep. You don't have to force it. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to test yourself for it. Sleep is not something you earn by trying harder. It's something you allow when safety is present, when the body is supported, when the mind has permission to soften. Tonight, you have that permission. If you'd like, take one last gentle breath in, not a big one, just enough to feel your chest rise slightly, and then breathe out slowly, as if you're letting the day leave your body through the soles of your feet. As you exhale, imagine the forest receiving that tiredness the way soil receives fallen leaves, quietly, without judgment. The ground doesn't ask the leaves why they're falling. It doesn't ask them to justify their weight. It simply holds them, and over time it turns them into nourishment. You don't need to justify your tiredness either. Let your shoulders sink into a more comfortable place. Let your hands rest open, like leaves that no longer need to cling to branches. Let your jaw loosen, your tongue resting gently. Let your forehead smooth out, as if someone has run a warm cloth across it. Somewhere in the forest, a droplet forms at the tip of a fern. It gathers weight, trembling just slightly, and then it releases. It falls into the leaf litter without sound. The forest receives it. The roots remember it. The threads carry its gift onward. You can let yourself release like that droplet. No announcement. No effort, just a soft letting go. If a thought still floats up, you can treat it the way the forest treats mist. Mist drifts through and is allowed to pass. It doesn't need to be trapped. It doesn't need to be fought. It can simply move. Thoughts can do the same. You can imagine each thought as a small cloud crossing a patch of sky. It comes. It covers the stars for a moment, and then it moves on, and the stars are still there. The sky is still there. You are still safe. You don't need to follow each thought. You can let them float by, like fog between trees. You can let them thin and fade until they are no more than softness. Now imagine the forest from above, as if you are looking down gently, like a bird gliding without effort. You see the canopy like a dark ocean, moving slightly in slow breath with the wind. You see small pockets of mist pooled in hollows. You see the faint ribbon of a creek catching a bit of moonlight. You see, in a few hidden places, a soft green glow where fungi light the dark. The forest is alive, but it is calm. And beneath that calm surface, the network continues, roots and threads, exchanging, supporting, balancing, a quiet economy of care. The forest doesn't need to announce its cooperation. It simply lives it. You can imagine your own body the same way. Beneath the surface of your awareness, there is a quiet intelligence. Your heartbeat continues. Your lungs continue. Your cells continue their work, repairing, restoring, organizing. You do not have to supervise them. You do not have to command them. You only have to let them do what they know how to do. Sleep is the body's night shift. The forest has one. You have one too. And perhaps that is the gentlest truth to carry into rest. The night is not a void. It is a system. It is a rearrangement. It is a healing shift. If you're listening from a busy life, you may have spent the day doing, deciding, performing. Tonight, you can step out of that mode. Tonight, you can simply be. Here, no one rests alone. Every story is a soft lantern in the dark. If you're still awake enough to hear this, and you'd like to leave a message for yourself, you can leave a gentle comment. just a small word of kindness. And if you want more peaceful nighttime journeys, don't forget to subscribe to Sleepy Insight channel, but only if you feel like it, only if it feels easy. Tonight, the most important thing is rest. Now, let the forest fade. Let the trunks become silhouettes. Let the leaves become a soft ceiling. Let the mist become a blanket. Let the creek become a distant hush. Let the stars become a quiet idea, like light behind closed eyelids. You don't need to do anything else. The forest will keep its secrets. The universe will keep its distance. The network beneath the roots will keep trading in silence. Everything will continue calmly until morning. And your only job, your only gentle task is to rest. Let your breathing slow into the easiest rhythm, the one that happens when you stop trying. Let your body sink, heavier, safer, quieter. Let your mind float, lighter, softer, quieter. And when sleep comes, whether it arrives quickly or slowly, let it arrive the way dew forms on a leaf, quietly, naturally, without effort. Good night. Sleep well, and let the forest find its place until morning.